Hi, my name is Ismail Afra. I am the Toronto Community Housing Resident Co-Chair of the Stakeholders Table.
And
I'm Greg Gary. I'm the Executive Director of K-Club, Toronto Kiwanis Boys and Girls Club, and I'm also the ED Network Representative at the Stakeholders Table. Nice to see everybody.
And we want to thank you very much for coming out tonight, and anyone who's watching this on their computer or whatever they watch it on. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Since those of you in the audience here we don't have a screen, and you don't see the agenda, what we'll be doing tonight from 6 to 8 o'clock, we have there will be a presentation by Waleed Kagogi. Yeah, I'm sorry, Waleed. I didn't say that right. About the SDP transparency of process for the CBOWG selection process. Dee Peters will be presenting a proposal for the strategic planning. There'll be an anti-racist action program for information by Amal. Then we'll take a short break, and then there'll be the four working groups will give their presentations, and then we'll have a couple of announcements by Ibrahim. So let's get started, and yes, Denise, would you mind please doing the land acknowledgement? Is Denise here? There you are.
Hey everybody, welcome. Welcome to the CSI Community Living Room, and welcome into our first in-person stakeholders table meeting in over 2 years. Today's a really interesting day, or an important day, because today is Indigenous Peoples Day. The 21st is the spring equinox, or the spring solstice, my apologies, the summer solstice, and also Indigenous Peoples Day. And the reason why it's Indigenous Peoples Day today, the reason why we chose today, is because in the States they celebrate Columbus Day. And Columbus Day is the day that they used to celebrate the sort of discovery of America, or the discovery of North America. And we know, because we know that that's incorrect. We know that there was no discovery. It was the day that they landed here. There's over 10,000 years of history on this land in North America, on Turtle Island. And it's important that we honor that sort of history, that we're on land that was not discovered. This land was landed upon but not discovered, because it had been inhabited by many different people for millennia of years, but at least the last 10,000 recorded years. And why that's important is that all land has a history, and that history speaks to how the land has been used and taken care of, and has sustained life and has sustained communities and cultures. And that's not unlike this land, the land that we're currently on in the Daniel Spectrum building and here in Regent Park. This land most recently is land that has been stewarded by the Mississaugas of the Credit, and also the Anishinaabe and the Chippewa and the Haudenosaunee, and as we know, this land has a history. Some of you have a history here. Some of you have a history that dates, your families have been here for many, many years. Some of you, this is a new history for you. There are folks in this building who lived on this very site, whose houses were actually on this very site, and they come and they work in this building on a regular basis as the land has sort of changed over. And that the importance of the history of the land is knowing that people have taken care of it, and inspires us and encourages us to continue to take care of the land. And that's one of the things that we're doing here tonight. We're taking care of the community and taking care of the land that we are that we call our community. So Regent Park has a history, and Regent Park also has a future. And so we sort of hold these pieces of our history, both Indigenous history and community history here, and we take them into the future. And what we're all doing here tonight, the purpose of the social development plan, is actually to make this community and this land better. And so that's taking care of the actual ground and the land and the space that we're in, but also taking care of each other as a community, in similar ways to how communities of Indigenous folks have lived on this land. And so I'm acknowledging both that this land has history, and also that we can take practices from Indigenous cultures in order to show us how we how we can benefit from this land and work together on this land. So welcome. Really glad you're here. Really happy to have the stakeholders table here, and really happy to be in a community like this with all of you. So I will turn it back over to you.
Thanks so much. I'd like to now turn this over to Waleed. Thank you, Waleed.
Thank you, Marlene. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Stakeholders Table meeting on this lovely start of summer, actually. So I hope you're all excited about the summer months. So my name is Waleed Kogali Ali. I'm the co-chair of the Community Building Working Group, and I'm also a member of the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group. And I just want to provide a quick update with regards to recruitment of members to the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group. So we have filled all the resident seats in the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group with the exception of 2 market residents. So we're in search of 2 market residents, and the 2 working groups that are going to be making recommendations to planning committee for residents that want to serve on the community benefits, who are going to work to provide residents in the community with options for community benefits. So something we call community benefit packages. And just some context, Tridel, which is the developer partner for phases 4 and 5, committed $26.8 million in community benefits. So we're still in search for 2 market residents to sit on the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group. If you have any questions, please reach out to us, either the chair of the meeting or on the chat on Zoom. Show your interest and share your email address, and we'll send you more information. So that's an update, and thank you so much.
Would you want to take some questions now? We have time.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions with regards to the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group? We can take some quick questions if anyone has any. We're good. Yep, go ahead, Leonard.
Is that committee accountable to the City of Toronto or to Tridel with respect to how the money is spent?
Well said. So the money that's been committed by Tridel, and when it pertains to community benefits, because they won the opportunity to be the developer partner, this funding will be administered by the city, because it is going to the city, but it will be spent by the community. So we're getting to decide how that money is spent in our communities. You know, whether it's for employment, whether it's for other priorities that we've identified. And just to give you some context, we talked to a lot of residents in Regent Park, many residents, and when we costed out our community priorities, it was over $100 million that we needed. We needed over $100 million to make sure that we have good jobs in our community, that we have sustainable funding for our programs, that we have the youth and senior programming, all the things that we wanted, our community space, all of that stuff. So we still have a lot of work to do to raise more money for our community, but if you serve in the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group, you will help the community determine how to spend that $26 million and change. Okay, so please apply. Please apply to be in the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group by either joining your Communications Working Group or the EED. We've already made a recommendation from the Communications Working Group to planning. So if you're interested, you can also reach out to us, and we'll find an opportunity for you to get involved. Okay?
Okay.
Any other question?
Thank you, Wally.
Okay.
Thanks very
Thank you
much,
so
Waleed.
much. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. You're up.
Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is the strategic planning. This is an ask coming from the planning committee. I'd like to invite Deanie Peters to present on the ask, after which we'll open up the floor for questions and clarifications. And because this item is a decision-making item, the floor will be open for anyone who wants to raise a concern or ask further questions, after which we will try and get consensus, and hopefully we'll make a decision. If there are huge concerns that cannot be met, we will defer the item for the next stakeholders table. So I'd like to invite Deanie Peters to explain the request and the ask from Planning Committee. Deanie Peters.
So, I want to talk to you about strategic planning. Strategic planning is to create an effective strategy to achieve goals and set a direction for future actions. So, what is a strategy? A strategy is a general plan to achieve one or more long-term or overall goals under conditions of uncertainty. For example, in order to be healthier, you need to have a strategy, such as eat a healthier diet, have a regular exercise routine, and ensure that you get an adequate night's sleep. So, what is a strategic planning? What does that mean? It's a long-term planning process in which our network defines its vision for the future and identifies strategic directions. And this will help to inform our collective decisions on allocating resources to attain our goals for the next 3 to 5 years. So, as I said, strategic planning is an opportunity for stakeholders to define our network's vision for the future, revisit and revise our social development plan to ensure that the plan is relevant and responsive to the current lived experience of Regent Park residents, as aligned with our goal of building a socially cohesive and inclusive community where all residents have a sense of belonging and acceptance. Given that we're about to begin a new chapter in the revitalization journey with phases 4 and 5, it would be both advantageous and timely to strategically and collectively consider the network's high-level directions for the next 3 to 5 years. So, some of the things that are done at strategic planning sessions, that they look at their vision, their values, their goals, the group's capacities, opportunities, obstacles, and effectiveness of those possible actions. And strategic planning should be done in a wide process that involves the whole SDP community in all steps. So, as the revitalization process continues to evolve, our social development plans should also revolve. Therefore, on behalf of the SDP Planning Committee, we're asking the Stakeholders Table to carry out a strategic planning process and agree to establish a steering committee to explore resourcing and assist in the design, planning, and implementation of the strategic planning session. So that is the ask that we're asking you to make a decision on.
Thank you, Deanie. So the floor will be open for questions, for clarification, both the online Zoom and live here. For those who are online, please raise your hand or put your question in the chat. For those who are here, in similar fashion, please raise your hand, and when you're told to go ahead, please come to the front to ask your question so that everybody can hear. So the floor is open for question and clarification. Yes, thank you.
Willie, come on up. Yeah, you might want to.
I have a question for Deanie. Do we have a strategic plan for the SDP?
No.
Thank you, Walid. Is there a question from Zoom? Anyone who would like to ask a question for clarification? I see none, but on the floor, please, yes, go ahead. The one at the back who's raising their hand, come forward.
Thank you. I have a few questions. So, actually, one is building off what Walid just asked. So, what was, I thought the strategic plan was coming up with how we came up with community building, safety, like the 4 pillars, and the vision. Isn't that this? Is that a strategic plan, or is that something different?
No. What we have is the social development plan, which is a change management framework. But as far as having a plan that looks at our future, like what steps do we need to take to reach this point within the next 3 to 5 years, given our current environmental circumstances? That's more specific when it comes to strategic planning.
Okay, thanks. And then, so you're asking that we launch the process and start a committee, but in terms of funds, for example, or like decision to hire an external consultant, does that come later by the committee, or are you? Yeah, I guess just trying to know. Just for clarity.
Yeah. In the ask, we're asking that you agree to the establishment of a steering committee to explore the resourcing and assist in design, planning, and implementation. So if there is agreement, the planning committee would then put a call out for steering committee members.
Got it. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions from online, from Zoom? Here, it's an opportunity to ask your questions. Please put it on the chat or raise your hand. Okay. On the floor, yeah, go ahead.
So, I like to see as much of things done internally by our own people as possible. So I like the way the possible external part was described as a consultant or just resourcing in general, because that really leaves it open to us still really running this process ourselves, and it doesn't really even require us to have an external person. But if we do, I sort of like the idea that they might be more of a consultant than a leader on the process.
Dini, would you want to comment on that, or? No. Okay, that's fine. Anyone else with questions for clarification?
My question maybe is something that maybe I don't know, but you guys were explaining to us what is strategic plan is, and when the question was asked, do you guys have it? You said, no, we don't have it. But I don't want to get too much close to it. Sorry. So my question is, how come you don't have it? And you were reading from the paper. I wanted to follow through with it. It's not in here. Okay. So that's my 2 questions.
Yeah. So we've never done strategic planning in the SDP before. It's just not something that's come up, you know. We've been having a lot of conversation lately about doing something where we look towards the future instead of always working in the time, you know, in the time. So it's just not something that the network has taken up before, which is why we think it would be very timely to do it right now, like to get started. And I would like to apologize to everyone for the fact that there was no information in the information package. This is the first time I've actually presented, and it didn't occur to me, I didn't realize that I was supposed to be the one who did the information that went in the package. So I missed the deadline, and I really apologize, and I guarantee you I will not do that again. But that's what happened. I hope you'll all excuse me for that process.
How will the makeup of the committee get decided? I guess personally, or I don't know if I'm here as the agency, I think strategic planning is so incredibly important. I'm wondering how the makeup of the committee will be formed, and is the planning committee deciding, or can we make sure there's a balance of TCHC residents, at least 50%, so that don't necessarily have to be tied to an existing committee. And I just say that because sometimes with committees, like even the working group, latest working group, it's a lot of, you have to be a part of something to be able to sit on that committee. There weren't as many spots for TCHC residents necessarily, or market residents. So I guess I'm just wondering how the makeup of the group would be formed, or if that's decided.
Yeah, the planning committee, like I had mentioned earlier, the planning committee would put a call out for participants. We may ask a couple of questions of why you think you'd be, you'd like to take, what your interest is or why you'd like to participate. And we are, my hope at least, is that the composition of how we see the SDP is the composition of how we would see the steering committee, so that we have all those perspectives at the table, and also look around, to ensure we have a nice diverse group, because the more perspectives we have, the more helpful it is.
Anybody else?
Thank you. Michael, you want to add something?
Add something.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Community Building Oversight Working Group was jointly set up by TCHC and the SDP. So it's not necessarily that in our own committees of the SDP, we would not be bound by the same type of structure. So I think it is more like our regular committees and working groups. But obviously the idea of having significant representation from residents is an important criteria, but there's been no indication so far that there are specific numbers for any group or representation on this committee. That has just never been discussed.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah. More questions for clarification from the floor or from Zoom? Donis, you'll have to help me.
We have one
I'm not
more
wearing
right
my
here.
glasses.
We have one more, I think.
Yes? Go ahead.
Jeannie, if a resident comes to this group, do you guys have orientation done? How would you guys help them to understand the strategic plan? Like if the person doesn't know how they can involve, who's going to be doing the orientation, make sure they understand the process and everything, is because that's the reason most of the residents, they don't want to be involved in certain things because they don't understand all these processes and the other words, the strategic. Like I'm thinking, well, what is this all this about, right? So do you guys have a plan to sort of support these residents?
Well, right now we're putting out the ask, but details like the onboarding, making sure people are well prepared, that they have good information coming in, that they're supported in the committee to actually fully participate. That will be all details that we will definitely pay close attention to.
Yeah. Further questions for clarifications from the floor or from Zoom? Okay. I see none from Zoom, none from the floor. Adonis, help me. No hands? So then we will test for consensus. What this means is we will see if there are concerns or if there's someone who disagrees. If there's no concern and everybody agrees, the item will be approved for decision. That means that the planning committee will set up a steering committee to help prepare for a strategic planning. So I'll open up the floor and to test for consensus. Is there anybody in Zoom or on the floor who disagrees with setting up a strategic planning committee? If you're in Zoom, raise your hand if you have a concern. Or if you're on the floor, raise your hand if you have concern. Adonis?
No, no one.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you, Lloyd. Lloyd, could you tell us your concern for setting up a steering committee here?
Yeah, my concern is that every time we get a committee, it seems that it's made up more of organizations and not enough TCHC tenants. And the reason why TCHC tenants do not participate in the groups is because they get bullied. So to me, it doesn't make sense because it's going to turn out the same way the other committees have done, where there's not enough TCHC tenants because they don't feel comfortable or they're being bullied on the committees. That's mine.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Thank you, Lloyd. Dini, would you like to comment on how this committee will make sure to have representation from Toronto Community Housing residents and the dynamic of making sure that there's no bullying or very difficult committees?
I think transparency. We'll be communicating ongoing with the planning committee as we're doing the recruitment, so that the planning committee will be well aware of the composition of the group. I'm going to call upon all of you to help us recruit and make sure that there are enough residents sitting around that table.
How many seats are open?
We haven't talked about numbers. It's just, would the stakeholder table agree that, to do a strategic planning and to agree to allow us to strike a steering committee? And as for the bullying, again, it's the facilitation of that group and, setting some good ground rules and safe spaces guidelines and following them and enforcing them.
So just to add on what Dini said, I think when you're doing community work, sometimes there are difficult conversations and sometimes there are disagreements. I think for the past few months, we've been working really hard to make sure that our meetings are good meetings. There's also a project right now that we've been working on called the Anti-Racism Action Project, in which we're trying to bring a more trauma-informed, what they call do no harm approach to our work. So we're always practicing to make our meetings much more better meetings. And hopefully the planning committee will work very hard to make sure that this committee is an open committee, just like most of our committees are open. Only people who, if you're interested, you're able to attend. So I know that we were testing for consensus and we had one concern. I'd like to put the floor back and ask a question. Lloyd, who's raised your concern, do you feel, Lloyd, that concern that you've raised can be mitigated, can be met, or do you feel that you still object to creating this committee?
I still disagree with it. I don't think that you can stop people from bullying people. I just think that if there's an opportunity to have a discussion on how to go about doing that and making sure of people being safe in the meeting, then I think it's a possibility. But right now, I don't think there is. Because of the tension and because of stuff and because of the way these groups are. There's not enough benefits from TCHC participating because they are scared of being a part of even the four groups, what goes on in these groups. So unfortunately, I still disagree with that.
Okay.
Until you can sit down and have a fair discussion about how to stop the bullying that's going on, then there's a possibility.
Thank you. I see several hands up. Which one came first?
Waleed did.
Yeah, Waleed, go ahead. Yeah, you'll go next. Don't worry. there's enough time.
Yeah, I just want to speak in favor of the recommendation put forward to develop a strategic plan. I asked the question earlier whether we have one. The answer was no. And I think it's important for us to have one, especially because the SDP receives $500,000 every year in funding, right? So if you're getting $2.5 million from the city, we need to make sure that we're able to ensure those funds go into the priorities that we have determined as a community. So I think having a strategic plan is important. And I actually disagree with the previous speaker. I see a lot of TCHC representation within the SDP. In fact, I came earlier at this meeting to ask market residents to get more involved in the SDP. We're actually missing a lot of market residents around the table at various working groups, and we have a lot of TCHC participation. I've been to so many meetings with the working group, and I've seen more TCHC residents than there are market residents, right? So I just want to make it clear that if folks have concerns about bullying and other intimidation beyond the strategic plan, this is not the forum for it. We're talking about a strategic plan. You can put another item under the meeting under other business to talk about that, or you can join the SDP culture group, the Shaping the SDP culture group, because that's where residents who really want to tackle conflict are getting involved. So I want to encourage the previous speaker to let us move forward with the item through consensus, but if not, let's take a vote on it. Thank you.
Yep. So thank you. So thank you for those comments. But you'll go up next. But just to clarify, if this item, if we don't build consensus on this item, the item will be drawn back for the next meeting. That was agreed upon, in the planning of this meeting. So if we're not able to have consensus, we will hold the item. So go ahead. Who's next? Adonis?
My question actually went back to what you were saying, that you haven't set up the numbers or how many people or just how many seats are going to be. So my question was, would it be based on like the statistics of Regent Park? For example, if there are 60% market rent residents or 40% TCHC, will that be how the seats are reflected? Or will it mainly be based on, 50-50? Or is it 50-50? Okay. Because I know those discussions haven't had yet, so I was just wondering how that was going to go and how those decisions are going to be made. So thank you.
Yep. Jeannie, would you want to comment on that answer?
When I was saying the same composition that we had tried to achieve with the SDP, it is 50-50, so the same number of market to TCHC residents, and then some organizations.
Yeah. Michael, you want to say something?
Right. So in regard to the like conflict within meetings and that sort of thing, I was also going to point out that we have started the SDP culture of the organization review, and so I mean I know that that's a serious like ongoing problem, and some people feel that it's more of a problem that like really like somehow like we can't work, things can't get done, and therefore you might feel like you want to like object to a committee because you see those problems could repeat themselves. But we do have a process to start to work on that. So I would hope, Lloyd, that you can like start to see that maybe those problems won't always repeat themselves, and like just have the confidence to like be able to see this committee happen, because we do have that culture review going on and we're also getting better over time just by working with each other. So like I hope that like I know you would probably still be extremely concerned, but nevertheless maybe like you can see that this can work out better this time around and in the future. And then just in regards to the composition, I mean, we haven't discussed it to the point where we don't even know that there will be numbers. Because as Ishmael pointed out, a lot of I mean, really all the time, essentially, we go with open committees. So, like, you know, we do try to do things a little bit differently in the SDP. So, like, you're probably just used to the idea that there would be some sort of competitive role for getting on this committee, because that's what you see in a lot of places. That may not happen at all, and I would be actually against creating any kind of competition regarding being on this committee. I do think it should be open. So it has, when I said it has not been discussed, I mean it has not been discussed to the point where there may not even be numbers associated with the committee. But we do have the general goal of trying to get you know, the residents on the committee. That's no doubt about that. But it's doing that with an actual numerical formula is not the only way to do that. And I would hope that we don't end up going back to competitions and numerical formulas.
Well
Thank
done.
you. I have one question from Zoom. Go ahead, Sarah Jane.
Okay,
Yep.
Can you move from here?
I didn't hear one word that Lloyd said. I mean, I sort of can read his lips because I know what his first comment was, but I didn't hear one word, and none of us did here. So I'll leave that for you to translate in a minute.
He didn't come
But
to the mic.
some of the concerns I have, and I've had, am I being heard?
Yes.
Yes. Some of the concerns I had was, first of all this came up as a result of what the planning committee did, and everything was what the planning committee did, and it was never brought to the whole stakeholders table at all. And that happens often. And so I'm afraid now we're going to get another layer with another committee, and it will never be discussed by, I mean, I've never heard one word about this until this was brought up today, and it all happened at the planning committee. So, and I've been to every stakeholders table meeting. So that's another one of my concerns. And I also don't know if maybe Deanie could name one action we could do. It's also vague. We're supposed to talk about our future, but give me an example of what would be talked about. I know there was 3 questions I asked.
Deanie?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, first of all, Sarah Jane, I am, right now, this item of the idea of doing strategic planning is being brought to the stakeholders table. So, you know, this is the forum that we have to address all the stakeholders, and so this is a forum we've brought it to. One of the things in my presentation, I talked about some of the things that strategic planning could, involves. It's looking at our vision, looking at revisiting our values and our goals, looking at the group's capacities, looking for opportunities, looking at obstacles, how you would mitigate those obstacles, and how we can use our resources, our time, and our effort and energy in the best way to achieve the goal that we would like to meet in, say, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, thank you. So we're running out of time. So my recommendation would be, you have several people? 2? Oh, 3 speakers. Okay, we'll take those 3 speakers. Then I'm going to call for a final recommendation, or if there's still objections. If there are objections, we'll move this item for the next stakeholders table. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're all here, and a lot of you, I don't know if a lot of you sit in the SDP planning or any other committees there is. So I think we need to listen to what the comments or what residents are saying, not to push it aside, because I've said it many times, sitting in committees that I've been, there's been a lot of power and controlling. So we have to fix those things in the House first before going forward. Denny, I'm not against the proposal. I'm happy. And another thing is I want to know where is the money coming from? And so that needs to be talked about too. Where is the money coming from? And is it going to be taken away from other people that are going to request for grants, that they need to do other stuff in the community? And I'm not against it, but it's just that we need to be really clear about that. Where is it coming from? And It's just, you guys need to listen to what the residents are saying, or TCHC tenants are saying. Our voices are important. It's not just about one side here, yes, and not the other side. You have to listen to what the TCHC tenants are saying, not through other people. And I've been saying this for decades. Our voices are important as much as anybody else. So please take that in your head and listen what we're saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Go ahead, Dini, you'd like to respond to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I know what bullying is, and so if somebody's saying that they feel bullied, that's a lot, and we kind of need to pause a minute to understand that. I would say, though, that I would like to see the TCHC agency, who are representative and who are, their mandate is to support the TCHC residents, that I'd like to, I don't know if there's a way for us to meet with them so that they can help to bridge the gap so we can understand what the challenges are. Because if somebody's saying, hey, we've been saying this time and time again, and I've certainly heard it a few times, then I think the TCHC agency has to be a part of the solution, right? Because there seems to be this friction between a TCHC resident and a market resident, and that is not going to build us cohesion, right? I'm a market resident, but I know what poverty is because I've been there. I know what bullying is because I'm Black, so I know what that is, right? But I think that we have to get the TCHC agency as part of the solution. I don't see another way, but happy to hear other solutions.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you. We have one more. Yeah.
Did you want to comment, Deanie?
I wanted to address the resource question, because it is a good question. And it's a reason why I wanted to get agreement to strike a steering committee so that we could explore that. And as far as like diverting the money away from the work groups who need it for their projects, no, we wouldn't be able to do that because the criteria for how you can use those funds is pretty specific. But we would need to look at, are there resources out there that we can tap into or leverage so that we could do this piece of work.
Thank you. Who's next?
Joel Clausen, one of the co-chairs of the Community Building Working Group. I think there's a lot of stuff coming up here, which is pretty important to pay attention to, and as others have said, we're taking steps to do that for sure. So that's been addressed already, referring to the SDP culture group. But I do want to say for people just to understand the way that strategic planning is done usually, and I would expect that that's what we would do in this kind of community-based process that we're involved in. A steering committee will only set up a plan or a path for how to create a strategic plan. To create the plan itself will involve everybody who wants to be part of it in the community. Will be a very inclusive process. They generally are. And so that's one of the strengths, like those that are speaking in favor of a strategic plan in general, the idea of a strategic plan is that it offers an opportunity for everybody who wants to come together and feed into what the way that you think that the community should move. So just to say, there's the steering committee is a formal thing, and that's why it was talked about in this agenda item, because that's the first step, but it's only a first step that points towards a very inclusive process.
Thank you, Joel. So I'd like to just make a last comment. Even if there are problems happening within the stakeholders table, strategic planning is one way to identify that problem. So if there are problems about how meetings are happening, strategic planning will help us find the problem and find ways to solve for it. So it's a way to look forward into where we are, where we're going, and to find what our problems are and what our solutions are. So if we don't do this strategic planning, we wouldn't be able to find the problems and solve for them. So anyway, those are just my last comments. So I'd like to end the meeting and the topic with a question, a last question, which is if there's still objections towards this, setting up this committee to prepare and plan, please raise your hand, or in the chat, please raise your hand if you're still concerned. And if we find that there are people who are concerned, we will be holding the item for the next stakeholder table. Please raise your hand if you still have concerns and you object. Help me out, Donis, if you see hands. Okay, so just to make sure, if you still have objections and concerns, you would raise your hand and the item would stop and it would come back next time. Okay, so thank you. Because there were objections raised, we will hold the item for the next stakeholder table meeting. I'd like to call next the next item.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Anti-Racist Action Program, and Amal's going to present that. Amal, you want to come up and present?
So Amal is online, so you'll be hearing Amal present from here. Amal, you're up next.
Should I share my presentation or will you pull it up?
So only people with Zoom would be able to see your presentation. We couldn't work out a screen here, so you'll have to verbalize your presentation.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Maybe that pianist could CC
we can hear you online. That's what's happening in the room. Thank you, Sugar. Okay, perfect. Presentation's up. So hi, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here and present to you on a new project that the SDP Network and Regent Park Community Health Center is collaborating on. It is the Anti-Racism Action Program, also known as ARAP. Next slide, please. So our team, my name is Amal Mohammed, and I am the ARAP project coordinator, who is joined by two other colleagues here today in this meeting and online as well, who will also be presenting with me. Varda Tariq, our community outreach worker, and Tanisha Samuel, our community healing advocate. Next slide, please. So I would also like to note that in the next 2 months, we will be recruiting for the following. We will be looking for community animators, language ambassadors, and a community healing consultant to support this project. So please keep an eye out for these job postings through your community networks and apply. So please apply. We will also be sharing another call out for applicants to join our project advisory committee this week. So residents, please apply to that because we want your voices to guide the direction of the project. Next slide, please. So let's go into why this project exists. What we know is that the Regent Park community members have experienced trauma resulting from historic and structural racism, exclusion, and isolation. As such, this project was created to address anti-racism and discrimination in Regent Park and in the SDP's works and initiatives that they are working on. This is important because racism is deep-rooted, so community networks, service providers, grassroots organizations, community members, etc., all need to do the deep work to uproot racism, to name it, to unpick it, so that healing and transformation can occur within themselves and within their community. Next slide, please. So, as such, our purpose is to address racism, educate one another on anti-racism, specifically anti-Black racism and anti-Indigenous racism, to move towards a common understanding and make brave spaces towards community building and healing, all while leading with empathy, encouragement, and empowerment. Next slide, please, and I'll now pass it on to my colleague, Varda.
So this is the model that we're basing our approach with, and it's the trauma-informed community building and engagement model. This model is made in a very wholesome way where we are trying to create community togetherness. There are 4 aspects for this model that we are trying to follow. One of them is the no harm principle, where we are trying to create, we're trying to avoid causing more damage within the community by having an awareness that there are past and current racial trauma. The second part is acceptance. We want to accept and meet the residences where they're at, accept their realities, of the community conditions and set expectations accordingly. The third condition is community empowerment. Each one of us have the power and control to own our own lives. Together, we have the power and control to understand each other's struggles by being each other's support system as a community. And the final fourth part is a reflective process where we want to have a long-term goal over multiple generations to improve the outcomes in within our trauma-impacted community. All of these combine a strong root to create community togetherness. Next slide, please. Can I get the next slide, please? Thank you. So this project hopes to learn and understand how we can provide and support towards a vision to help each other. So these are some pondering questions to reflect on, where we want to understand what community building means to residences. So how can we build community empowerment with you? And how can we strengthen acceptance and reflection? Or where can we strengthen acceptance and reflection? And I'll pass it to my colleague, Tanisha.
Thank you so much, Varda and Amal, who have spoken so well to the great work that we're doing on the anti-racism action program. And I want to sort of talk a little bit more in depth about one of the goals of this program, and that is community healing. And what does that actually mean? In my role as your community healing advocate, I'm here to help facilitate the dialogue around defining what healing actually means to the community from its own mouths, within its own words. So basically, the focus of our goals are three. First and foremost is to understand what healing means. We need to define what that actually means and what it looks like so that we can create actionable goals to work towards in that therapeutic journey process of the community reaching that goal of social cohesion. Our second goal would be to strengthen an understanding on racialized trauma and how it impacts your mental health. We're here to help the community to understand that racism, the impacts of racism is in fact a trauma. It has an effect on the psyche of a community and the social workings of a community. And that is like a wound, very much like how our bodies are biological and they can become wounded. The impact of racialization and racialized trauma has the exact same effect and requires a healing effort in order to move forward and to move into a space where that community can experience that social cohesion. And finally, our goal is to build social inclusion and cohesion through healing. And that includes facilitating sessions within the community that bring people together from their little silos, from their corners, in a collaborative effort so that we can experience a culture of togetherness and work on those actionable goals towards healing that we've defined for ourselves. I'll ask us to move on to the next slide, please. So how do we heal? What is the process of healing? That's what we're here to figure out as a community. As we're biological human beings, when we get a cut, whenever we get a wound on our bodies, a bruise, that takes a process. It takes time to heal. And it's the same thing for trauma and the same thing for racialization and racialized trauma. So as we go through the healing process and as we work towards our goal of social cohesion, we go through a series of phases in the healing process. The first phase would be achieving a sense of safety and stabilization, right? So you get a cut, you're bleeding, you're experiencing the pain, and in order to address that, you get yourself to a point of safety, stabilize the wound, stabilize it so that you're not experiencing any further injury. Varda spoke earlier about not re-traumatizing the community in the process of healing, and that's so important in this phase. And that very much includes the recognition and development of the community's inner strengths, what makes us a strong community, and also having access to available resources for that journey ahead. And the second stage in the healing process is a process of remembrance and a little bit of mourning. Mourning is a key part of the healing process. After developing that strong sense of personal safety and stability, you can move on to that stage of mourning and trauma recovery. And that work involves being able to reassociate with painful memories and create new memories in order to change your relationship to that trauma and to that experience of racialization and racism. And finally, in that process of healing, there's reconnection and integration. And in this stage of trauma recovery, it focuses on the reinvention of community as a healed and whole community and the visioning of a bright and hopeful future. This is where a community can define where it wants to be in the future, because all of its parts have come together in a healed way and in a way that's aligned to the same goal of thriving together under social cohesion. Next slide, please. And I put a quote up here, actually. It's by a writer, a famous Black writer, activist, feminist, and poet by the name of Bell Hooks, and she's famous for saying, "Rarely, if ever, are any one of us healed in isolation. Healing is an act of community, of communion." And this is something that we'd love as the ARAP team to leave you with, as something to think about and something to meditate on. As each of you are participating in your communities in different ways, you serve different functions, everyone has a different role, a different job. Think about how you can contribute to your community and offer yourself to heal within community and in communion. And I'll end with this. You have the opportunity to reach out to us, to connect with us and grow with us as a team. We're on social media now. We have an Instagram account and Facebook account that are active and live. So you can follow our team and everything that we're working on. Any facilitation sessions where we're getting your community engagement will be available and posted there. You can follow us on Instagram at healing.regentpark and the same handle for Facebook. So all of our community conversations will be there and you can participate with us on our team. Thank you so much for your attention, and we look forward to your feedback and to working with you over the next while.
I know. You thank you, Kurt? You thank you, Kurt?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to our next stage. We're going to pass on the break right now. We're just going to continue on. If you do need to have a personal break, go right ahead, but we're going to continue to move forward. Okay? Thank you very much.
Oops.
That would bring presentations on the working groups. My bad.
So we're going to move into the presentations by the working groups. By the way, these were found in the men's washroom. If they belong to anybody, these glasses, we're just going to leave them here on the front desk. Just leave them sitting there. So do we know who's first?
Yeah. So community building.
Oh, community building. So our first group is community building. If they'd like to come up.
Okay, since we don't have a lot of time, I'm going to try to be very brief, just 10 minutes, right?
Yep,
Yes,
10 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. So I guess we'll introduce ourselves quickly. So my name again is Walid Kogali Ali. I'm one of the co-chairs of Community Building. Joel?
And as again, Joel Clausen, the other co-chair of Community Building.
Awesome. So we're going to try to be very brief with regards to our presentation because we don't have a lot of time. But the Community Building Working Group has been very, very busy. We've done an orientation early on this year. We were also very involved in planning Sunday in the Park virtually for the first time. So that's one amazing event that we do that we want to do again this year that we're going to talk about later on. but I just want to quickly highlight some of our key activities that you have in your activity report. So I guess we can get started with the first one, which is, what is our goal as a community building working group? So I'll quickly say that. Our goal is to create accessible, informal, and formal spaces to support events and groups that bring residents together by removing physical and social barriers, and by building bridges between market and TCHC residents, as well as between residents and agencies and institutions. So that is our goal. And we meet, just to remind everyone, that we meet every month, first Tuesday of every month from 6 to 8. And we are a space for local grassroots groups and organizations to introduce their work in the meetings, but also to learn about things going on in the community, so that we could come together to build on events and the history that we have as a community of bringing people together. We also have subcommittees. So I just want to quickly mention that. We have a subcommittee that's focused on advocating for access to recreation, so through the to Regent Parks and Forest and Recreation. We have an access to space working group. We have a lot of residents who are involved in community building. And in fact, I want to invite you all to our meetings. You have to see it for yourself to get involved. It's so relaxing and so much fun. We have almost 30 people that show up, that are constructive, that care deeply about the community, and want to work together. Joel, do you want to quickly talk about the city-approved projects?
So we've had a couple of funding cycles, and we have projects that have happened or are happening. The ones that have happened in the first round was access to recreation, where we are continuing to work to try to get better access, especially to the swimming pool and the community center, and generally to the city recreation programs. And another one is access to spaces, trying to create ways for the community to have access to spaces that they might not have easy access to otherwise. Then another project under the community building is Football for All, which is a summer sort of soccer league, especially for kids and youth. Then there was a second round of funding, and in that, there's been a number of projects that were connected to community building, and one of them is the Women's Social Healing Circle, which has been going quite well, led by a number of women from the community. There is the Youth Enrichment Academy, which is a program out of the Community Health Center. It's kind of like an after-school program for middle school, kind of like a predecessor to what some people or many people are very familiar with, is the Pathways program for high school students. That had funding through the community funding, the deep dive. There's Healing as One has received funding, which is they have a safe space for youth upstairs here, and they do a lot of different work in the community around festivals and different events and so on. So those are the projects that we have going, and just to say too that all this happens through the community building working group, and when we were doing this funding process, all the groups that had ideas and had proposals came to the community building working group, like the ones that were connected to our theme, to the community building theme, and they put their ideas before the whole group, and everybody got to listen to them and ask questions about them, and then we had a kind of
the application for phases 4 and 5. So space is super important. And we as a community building working group are going to continue to address issues identified by the community, and we're going to continue supporting groups that have been funded through the SDP, through city funding, to make sure that they're successful. One last thing that I want to mention is with regards to SDP. A process that we are involved with within the SDP, specifically with regards to hiring and alignment. So the community building working group is facilitating meetings to achieve alignment on an SDP work plan, informed by working groups completing helpful standard template. And we also facilitate meetings to achieve alignment on an SDP hiring practices to make sure that we hire locally within our community. Last plug I'm going to make is we are hiring a coordinator for Sunday in the Park. It pays $25 an hour, and I just want to give a shout out to Healing Us One for being a partner alongside Toronto Community Housing. We've got also potential funding from Tridel and other partners to make it happen. We meet every Friday from 3:30 to 5 o'clock on Zoom. So if you want to help plan an amazing event that so many members of our community love, which is Sunday in the Park, please join our planning meetings every Friday from 3:30 to 5. And if you know anyone who's interested in putting their skills as an events, to be an events coordinator, please encourage them to apply for this position. The deadline is Monday, July 4th. Okay? So those are the last things that I wanted to share with you folks. But we do have an email address, sdp.cbwg@gmail.com. My phone number is 416-625-7712. Reach out to us via email, call us, get involved in your community, and especially through the Community Building Working Group. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Waleed.
Well done.
And now we'll hear from the Employment and Economic Development Group.
So that will be online.
Okay.
Brian, you're up.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian. I'm the Employment and Economic Development Lead. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Carry on.
Okay. Next slide, please. So I don't know if Gail's going to touch upon this if she wants to speak to this, but overall, we're, right now the EED, we do have the Women's Entrepreneur Group, and it's a group of local women entrepreneurs interested in startups. The group meets every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. in the Community Living Room, which is the first floor of the Daniel Spectrum. And what does the actual group do? So the group is here to actually support women in Regent Park, and with that they include 4 focus areas. So the focus areas include peer mentorship, business coaching, training, and business supports. And one of the new initiatives from the Women's Entrepreneur Group is the night market, which will be held 2 days, but these days actually haven't been finalized yet. And once we actually know when the days, which days they will be, we'll send out more information. This night market in particular is actually a really great way to bring back the street to community, to provide community building opportunities, and to support local businesses. And if so, you're a woman entrepreneur in Regent Park, please join. The email is regentparkeed@gmail.com. We'd love to have more members. So once again, Gail right now is in the audience, so if you do want to reach out, please reach out to Gail. And I don't know if Gail wants to add any more information to that.
Gail's here.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Continue, Brian.
Okay. Perfect. Next slide, please. Yeah, and so another thing that the ED table is doing right now is that we applied for an opportunity fund, which is a grant from the Metcalf Foundation. And the actual fund was an open call to discuss innovative ideas and compelling approaches that really contribute to building healthier communities, building more equitable cities where lower income folks and communities can access Toronto's economic opportunities. And so the EED table applied for the grant, and we called the project The Capacity of Regent Park, where momentum meets opportunity. And so really the 2 goals of the Opportunity Fund is to really leverage the Regent Park neighborhood's capacity. So there's a lot of talent, there's a lot of skill sets in Regent Park, and we want to leverage that. And to also leverage the existing infrastructure, specifically around employment and economic development. And then the next thing that we want to do is to leverage forthcoming assets like community benefits from phases 4 and 5 with Tridel to help improve the economic livelihood, particularly for low-income Regent Park residents. Sarah, I noticed that you have your hand up.
Yes, I do.
Yes, please.
I'm not quite sure what a night market is.
Oh, thank you for asking. So basically a night market, and it looks different in, I guess, various cultural contexts. So basically a night market is when you have you been to the cultural bazaar?
Yes.
So it's something similar to that's usually held at night. And I don't know if this is what the specific women's group had in mind in terms of a night market. Usually there's local vendors, there's opportunities there to buy products and to support local entrepreneurs.
And is it in sort of in a bazaar setting?
Yeah, it's similar to a bazaar setting, but like I mentioned before, they haven't finalized the actual dates or what it'll actually look like in terms of that. And I don't know if Gail in the audience right now wants to speak more to that, but that's essentially what a night market is. It's essentially the bazaar format that usually held at night with different opportunities.
All right.
I think Denise is going to have something to say.
And so, so that's one of the other things that we're doing at the EED table. We do have the opportunity fund, so we're hoping that the funds that we get from Metcalf will actually go back into the actual community. Next slide, please.
Oh, Brian, do you want
And
Denise?
so I just wanted to
Brian?
lead you off with just introducing 2 new staff. So as I mentioned, my name is Brian Ng. I'm the new EED lead for the Employment and Economic Development Table. And then we also have Anab Mohammed, who's the Employment and Economic Development Administrative Coordinator. And so just to leave you off with some of the responsibilities. So what do? I basically have helped build relationships with local residents, agencies, organizations. So I've met with, like, for example, Daniels, Tridel, TCHC, the Center for Learning and Development, so a variety of community partners, and then a lot of local residents as well. I also help, one of my primary roles and responsibilities, to help find employment and economic opportunities for residents. So I work closely with a lot of Regent Park residents. If you are seeking any kind of EED, employment or economic development opportunities, please contact me. My contact information is on the slides. It's beng@ysm.ca, and my phone number is also there. I also can help find educational opportunities, training opportunities. So right now I'm working with a lot of residents to find jobs, employment, training, etc. And then for Anab basically works at providing administrative coordination and support for the EED table. Right. And next slide. I just wanted to end off with a stakeholder, some quotes from residents, businesses, and agencies that I've been working with. So some residents in Regent Park have quoted that it's really important that the ED and larger SDP focus on finding jobs and other opportunities for parents of youth and not just youth. So I have been really making a concerted effort to actually work with parents and adults in the community to making sure that they also have employment opportunities and not just the youth. It's important that we focus on all residents of Regent Park, particularly those from equity-seeking groups. And then we have another quote from a business in Regent Park that they want to create opportunities for community members and to make sure that they hire local Regent Park residents. We know the ED table does know that this has been an ongoing issue and that we are working to try to address some of these systemic barriers where local residents, as we know, aren't being hired. So we're trying to figure out why they're not being hired and to making sure that we partner with these local businesses, agencies, to make sure that we reduce the job requirements, but also making sure that Regent Park residents, particularly from equity-seeking groups, are prioritized. And then the last quote I want to leave you with is basically from a local Regent Park organization. So our organization wants to work closely with the ED table to ensure that residents of Regent Park are provided with services, programs, and EED opportunities, particularly those from equity-seeking groups. Thank you for your time, and if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And like I mentioned, if you are a local Regent Park resident and seeking EED opportunities, please contact me. I'd love to work with you.
I think, Brian, Denise wanted to have something to say about the night market.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that okay? Go ahead,
Hey,
Denise.
everybody. The night market is a partnership between CSI and the Employment and Economic Development Group. We applied for some funding from the City of Toronto. It's a Main Street Activation Fund. We received $50,000 from the Main Street Activation Fund, and what it will look like is there will be 3 anchor female entrepreneurs who will have booths at the night market. We suspect that the location will actually be here at the Spectrum Building, just on the patio outside of the CSI Community Living Room. And so it'll be a combination of 3 anchor women-owned businesses here in Regent Park, and then a rotating group of other female entrepreneurs from the Employment and Economic Development Table. And so you'll have at least 8 vendors. Currently, we're looking for other groups from the neighborhood to sort of animate that space. We're thinking Friends of Regent Park, we're thinking Square Circle, just a place for people to set up play tables and play spaces for families and people in the community. The night market will include entertainment and will happen at least 2 nights during the week. We're thinking Friday and Saturday night, or Thursday and Saturday night. And it's a way for us to support local entrepreneurs, support local businesses in the community, and also a way for us to encourage the community and the residents to come out and join the sort of streetscape as it goes through throughout the summer months. So that's a little bit more information about the night market.
That's great.
Thanks so much, Denise. We're really running low. If you have any other questions.
There's Gail and there's Denise.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next, yeah.
All right.
So the next?
Yeah, okay. So we're moving on to the safety network. That's Inez.
Okay, hi everyone. So we are sitting in the safety network. I'm just going to tell you, safety network. It comes of the youth empowering youth, accessibility with Lloyd, and moving leaders for change. That comes through the branch of the safety network. I'm just going to give you a little information of when, since we got this grant, what we have accomplished and how many people have attended. We did CPR standard for 2 days. We had 31 attendees. CPR emergency, we had 2 days, 32 attendees. We had speaking with confidence, 38 attendees. That was twice we had it. How to lead a meeting, we had 13 attendees. Mental health first aid, we had 41 people. Advocacy, we had 31. Community trauma awareness, we had 33, and total from a year to now, 219 participants. We're having a workshop on June 30th. I went to North and South region to put flyers in all the TCHC tenants' doors, and I put it in the WhatsApp everywhere. So it will be on June 30th, and it's a huge event just to talk about our accomplishments. And I have Lloyd, if you want to talk a little bit, and then I would like to pass to Lisette about her experience of speaking with confidence, advocacy, and how to lead a meeting.
Very nice. Nice.
I'm Lloyd Pike. I have a grant that I got through the city to do a project. Yeah, I don't need the mic. My voice is loud enough. That I am doing a project with people with disabilities, mobile. That the process, I'm in the process right now of collecting surveys and data and working on a round table discussion, not just what's the barriers, but also how to bring them down. Because I do feel that people with disabilities in Regent Park's voices are not being heard. And we have a lot of trouble getting across the street when they're not done properly. And I think it's time that the community work with people like myself to make it better. And if I don't stand up and do something about it, it will never get done. Thank you.
Thanks, Lloyd.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisette Kassoul. Yes, my name is Lisette Kassoul, and I'm here tonight to tell you about my experience taking courses with Safety Network. I did advocacy. I also did how to lead a meeting and speaking with confidence. Speaking with confidence gave me the ability to be myself and to express my opinion without being concerned about who is in the audience and who the judgment that can get after while I'm speaking. Also, it's important not to be arrogant and be able to take criticism. Be able to be a good listener, like active listening. It's also is important to listen to people. Be open to people's to get feedback. Also, it's important to have to be able to make eye contact with the audience while you're speaking, because it gives you the trust between you and the audience. And also, it is important to be aware of your body language, your gestures, and also your tone of your voice, and because sometimes you might say something that doesn't mean to hurt people, but the tone you use always makes you in trouble. Today, because of that course that I did, gave me the confidence to join the community. Today, I'm part of 2 working groups, community building and safety network. And also, I'm an outreach worker for the communication table. And I'm here promoting the social development plan and let the community know how important it is to get involved and to have your say and have that your voice is really important and is needed in the community. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Sajia. I just want to reiterate on what my friend here said, Lizette. So what? Sorry.
Oh, that's perfect.
So when we give this, Ines and I and Loy, we give these certificates. For me, I am amazed about how committed the residents are, because some of these certificate program we give is 2 weekends. It's both Saturday and Sunday, and it is 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. And to see the commitment of the community giving up their weekend just to come here to take the course is amazing. And Ines and I right now we have more people emails waiting for this program to start. Waiting for this program to start again. So, and Ines and I were looking forward to continue giving this amazing program to the community, because it's needed. It's needed, and it gives, like my friend here said, it gives the community more it gives them chance to encouragement to communicate with the community and to get involved, and that's what we want the residents to get involved in the community. Thank you very much.
Oh, well done.
Are there any questions?
All right, good job.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was great.
Well done.
Pardon? Yes, I know. Okay, and the last group is the communications group.
Hi, everyone. My name's Adonis Huggins, and I'm with the Focus Media Center. I'm here with Ibrahim and and Denise is behind the counter, and there's quite a few other people who are involved in the communications table. Essentially, we meet bi-monthly, usually on a Monday night, and we talk about communications. And what we talk about is how can we communicate the SDP to the neighborhood? How can we communicate the events to the neighborhood? How can we communicate the activities to the neighborhood? And how can we communicate information to the neighborhood? And that's why we have such a big team. We have 4 projects that we'd like to very quickly talk to you about. One is Regent Park TV. The other one is the Regent Park newsletter, monthly newsletter. The next one is Hello Neighbor. And the third project is SDP Promotion. So we're going to go through all of those things today. Talk about RPTV first. So RPTV, as you know, stands for Regent Park TV. It's your TV. You should watch it. Unfortunately, the only place you can get it right now is on YouTube. So you have, no, I stand corrected, and Abraham will correct me in a few minutes. But currently, it's on YouTube, so we'd like you to subscribe on it. But coming now, it is also on the Hello Neighbor app, which, again, will be talked about. One thing about Regent Park TV is we provide the infrastructure to do events like this. So if you look around, you got the cameras over here, you got the mics working, the speakers working, and when it works, it's great. When it doesn't, don't blame me. So we provide the infrastructure to make events happen and meetings happen whenever technical equipment is needed. The other thing we do is we produce a weekly show, our weekly news show that we like you to be engaged with, and it's called Regent Park Weekly TV. And again, we just take the events that happen over the course of the week and meetings that happen, the SDP meetings. So it's a way for you to find out what the SDP meetings are about, what we talk about, and then other issues that happen in the neighborhood. So I really encourage you to all watch that. The next piece that I'm going to very quickly talk about, Denise should really come up and talk about, but it's the Regent Park Monthly News. Denise is always busy, but we have a newspaper that goes out to the community called the Regent Park Monthly News. It's an e-newsletter. Denise, do you want to say a few words about that? Big hand for Denise. All right.
Spending way too much time with this microphone. The Regent Park newsletter was restarted about 2 years ago, and it comes out every month. It is sourced from the community, so all of the articles, Adonis and his team at Regent Park Focus give us photos and news articles and that kind of stuff from the community. And also, as a resident, you can contribute to the newsletter on a monthly basis. There's a call out that happens at the end of the month, so usually we want things in by the last week of the month, and then the newsletter goes out the first week of the new month. The curators are 2 residents of Regent Park, Marguerite and Maya. They're fabulous. And they try and get as much as they can in. So if you have programming that you want to include, if you have posters that you want to include, if you have articles or pictures or creative writing that you want to include, it really is your newsletter. And the whole point is to showcase your stories and your thoughts and your ideas, and also to connect you to different things happening in the community. So Adonis and his team do a great job of getting things out to you on a weekly basis. But this is for some of the bigger pieces, and also something that residents can contribute to on a monthly basis. We have close to 1,000 subscribers. If you're not subscribed to it, please do so. I know Waleed has contributed to it, and I know lots of other folks in the community have contributed to it. And it's a really nice way to connect. As you can connect daily to RPTV, you can connect weekly to the weekly news, and then you can connect monthly to the newsletter as well. Back to you.
And for your information, we have now come together where you could get both the news, the monthly news, and Regent Park TV in one package. Here to tell you about that one package is no other than
Thank you very much, Adonis, for that energy. I want to tell you a small story, but I will make it quick. I am a true believer in community work. I really think that change for residents can only come through collaboration. And when I say collaboration, I learned this word in the SDP. And the reason I came to the SDP was actually to collaborate. One of the projects that I started working on was a website called Regent Park Social. I knew that the community needed a website, and I start typing using Weebly. Then I came to the communication table thinking I have solved it all. And when I came and I heard that in the communication there's so many things going on and there's so many opportunities, and one of the first things that we start working on is how do we centralize information that you don't have to go to many places. Every organization has a website. Every organization has their information in their website. As a resident who live in this community, are you going to go to every website to find out what's going on? The idea was no, we need to make things easier through a partnership. So a lot of you know me as Ibrahim, but I'm trying to build a nonprofit organization called Vision of Tomorrow, where we have a philosophy of 3 B's. Believe change is possible, and that can take some time. And when you believe in something, you have to, the next B is begin taking direct action wherever you are. Whether you are one person, whether you don't have enough skill, just begin where you can. And the last B that brought me to the SDP was build with others. You don't have enough capacity, but when you build with other partnership, any vision can come true. And that was what the SDP meant for me when I came to the communication. And what came out of that was a community app called Hello Neighbor. So this is a partnership between Young Street Mission. We have they are the big gun. And we have the Neighborhood Association that is linked to the residents and linked to the community, and Vision of Tomorrow. We all came together to build this app just for you guys. Regent Park has its own app now, and you guys need to download it. Everything that is going on in the neighborhood, whether there is a meeting, whether there is an event, it even has a system navigation that YSM is putting together where you can find all the programs, all the services that you need, all in one place. So please download it. We're looking for folks to download it as soon as possible. So please download it. I have the QR code. So let's come to the back and download it, please. But I will pass on to this amazing next team, and you will hear so many beautiful projects. Thank you.
So the fourth project is the SDP promotions. So here to tell you what the SDP promotions are. Go ahead.
Hi guys. So there you go. Is that? Can you hear me? There you go. I'm too short. Okay. So we got hired for the community promotion, whatever is happening in the community, I guess. Please, if you guys need to find out any information, just stop me and then ask me. I'm more than happy to share anything I know. These are two of them that also got hired, and then whatever the information I have, and then I will pass it on to them. They will also have that access. I know this app is not easy to download, and I'm also learning myself too. So I'm more than happy to help you guys out if you guys have any difficulty, hard time, and then I'm here to promote in an easy way and accessible way as possible, as much as possible. We created that poster for the SDP and then the stakeholder table as well. So we'll see. Like if you guys don't understand the flyers or anything, just let us know, and then I'm more than happy to make it simple as possible. Just community can understand, right? That's what I'm here for.
All right. Yes, I'm Lizette, and recently I was hired by the communication table to to promote and the social development plan, and to bring more people to get engaged into the 4 working groups. And my goal is to, because like the social development plan goal is to build cohesion and inclusion. Every day, like for 4 hours, we go out there and talk with the residents, market resident, TCHC resident, for them to come and join these 4 working groups, so we can help build this amazing community and build the future, like pass the knowledge to our kids, because we are here today seeing all these beautiful things, amazing things that happen in our community. But if we don't get engaged, how are we gonna tell our kids that how this building came about, you know? And we are here today to promote that, and I'm so honored to be part of the communication table. And I'm happy always to go out there and talk about the working group and the social development plan. Thank you.
My name is Samhar, and whatever she says, what I'm saying. I don't want to take your time. I'm so happy to be with SDP group, and I just moved 2 years ago to this neighborhood, but I used to volunteer or do my co-op with CSI, so I used to go up there and say, oh Lord, I wish I can be in this neighborhood, and the next thing you know, I'm here. And now I'm evolving, and I'm learning that there is TV, I didn't know. I'm so happy. There's so many resources and so many things. So I'm gonna grow, and I hope you guys gonna make me grow with you. And I'm happy.
Thank you.
You know, STP is not an easy thing to understand for many residents. As we talk in the community, we had events and everything. It's not an easy thing to talk to a resident. It's because it's a complicated. When you say STP, and then we talk about the stakeholder meeting, we talk about the working group, and there's other things involved too. For me to understand, Tini used to know. I used to sit down and just listen. And I used to go to all these meetings. I'd be like, you know, I used to be the community building co-chair as well. But it took me a lot of time for me to understand and think. As a resident, you guys will be probably taking a little bit more than, you know, we'll learn more faster with the simple language. Like I said, don't hesitate to ask questions about anything. Just ask. We do have an amazing Mahadir who's been hired, and he could give you some orientation for this working group as well. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And I'll just end by saying that the communication table is different than a lot of the tables in that we work for the other tables. We really want to be able to communicate the work of all the great the working groups and all the great activities that they're doing, so more residents know about it. So we hope that we do that, and we will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. And thank you for all the presentations. And now, last but not least, Ibrahim has a couple of announcements. Ibrahim?
Thank you very much. I think you guys have heard a lot, and you have heard there's one amazing event that we are planning through community building. But this event is not a community building event. It's an event that belongs to every one of you. It's an event that has a legacy, that has deep roots in the soil of Regent Park. And if you guys, not those guys who know it, but if you don't know it, it's coming back, and it's coming back with a beautiful plan, and it's called Sunday in the Park. And each of one of you, we need residents, we need you guys to come back and bring this back to life. There is a committee that is working on planning it. As Waleed has also informed us, we are hiring somebody. So if you are looking for a job, and you don't have to have a lot of event experience, but you will have a strong committee behind you, we will make it happen. So apply for the job, and let's make this Sunday event that is a legacy of this community something we can all be proud of. We are planning, we have booked with the city August 15th, August 14th, but that is not a timeline that we are sure of. So we need to still get it from the city to say that is a good date. If they say no, we also put it in the next Sundays to come. Through Mershida and her beautiful team, and if you download the app, you will know exactly what is happening in Regent Park. So everybody, thank you very much. for coming. As I said before, it takes all of you to make Regent Park wonderful. Thank you.
I heard you. Miguel, you have a question?
Yeah, so Miguel is online.
Where is he?
Miguel?
Hi everybody, sorry I was busy with a presentation at 220 Oak Street for the tower renewal project that we're undergoing. I probably you guys already answered this question, but I believe there was discussions about the Hello app to be available for iPhone. Is that available now?
Yes.
Yes.
That's a question about the communications presentation.
Yes. It's available both Android and iPhone.
Were you able to hear that, Miguel? I don't think you could hear.
So Miguel, the app is available both Android and iPhone.
Thank you. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Are you the closer?
Yep. Thank you, everybody, for a great stakeholders table meeting. You've heard some information about the work groups. We've talked about strategic planning. That item will be brought back for the next stakeholders table. We will review what they call the meeting today, and hopefully the stakeholders table would reconsider the item. Thank you for an amazing night. Thank you for those from the work groups. It's amazing to hear the accomplishments from the safety network. A round of applause for what we've heard from the safety network. Amazing numbers.
Yes.
I am surprised and inspired by the stories we've heard, especially by the recent hires, from the communications table. Amazing hires, and the SDP will be promoted quite well. I want to thank all the co-chairs of the work groups and the members of the planning committee and everybody who's attended tonight's meeting. I want to thank Denise for hosting us in the community living room. This space is a space for community. You'll see me here every morning with a free Wi-Fi. You can work off of here any day, anytime. And of course, on Fridays, I experiment with Gail, the cocktails. So if you want to come to those experiments Fridays, please join us. My favorite drink so far is what's called the Twins Delight. It's named after me and my twin brother. We enjoyed that. So if you want to name something, also join us on Fridays if you want to socialize. Thank you, everybody. I want to thank my co-chairs, Greg and Marlene, for amazing work. Have a good night, and thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night. This was a good meeting tonight.
It was a really good one. Yeah. Great job.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out all of our social media platforms. For more information, check out our website.